Hello, people from around the universe! I am your host, the Italian Ace. And with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet having just been revealed a month ago, everyone is speculating what new Pokemon we're gonna see in the games. And so I thought it would be pretty fun for me to give my opinion as to what Pokemon I would want to see released for Gen 9. More specifically, however, I want to talk about Pokemon that would be inspired by various mythological creatures, because I've always been a very big fan of mythology and also history in general, but specifically Greco-Roman mythology and Roman history. Yes, me being Italian may have some influence here, but I mean, it's also just cool, you know? So I think it's gonna be pretty fun to just kind of talk about the different creatures that are in these mythologies and which ones I think would be the best additions to not just these Pokemon games, but any future Pokemon games as well. Fair warning, most of the creatures we're talking about today are based on Greco-Roman mythology because that's the one I know the most. However, there are a couple exceptions, or only one depending on how you look at one of the other entries. And besides that, I do really think that Greco-Roman mythology offers some of the most incredible designs that we could get for a Pokemon game. Regardless, I have some very cool mythological creatures in store for you today, so it's gonna be a fun time. But, of course, before we get into any of that, cue my intro. Okay, so let's start off with our number 5 entry, and I do technically have them ordered from 5 to 1, but outside of the top 1, they're all interchangeable really because I think they would all be cool to get in the game. Still, just for the sake of consistency, I put them in some kind of order, so make of that what you will. Regardless, our number 5 is going to be the Sphinx. I mean, Sphinxes being guardians that use riddles or some kind of a challenge or test to see if the person that they're facing really is worthy of passing through to whatever they're guarding, kind of sets them up perfectly for some amazing lore in Pokemon, and I think I can speak for everyone when I say that a great Pokemon design is made even better if there's a fantastic Pokédex entry or just Pokemon lore in general accompanying it. Plus, the design of the Sphinx is cool as is, and I could see Pokemon having some real fun with this, especially by maybe mixing and matching the different Sphinx traits from different mythologies. So again, I think a Sphinx would be a fantastic addition to the Pokemon universe. Coming in at number 4, and this is the other exception to the Greco-Roman mythological creatures list that we have today, and that is the Hippogriff. So, for anyone wondering, the Hippogriff was first thought up in the 16th century by Ludovico Ariosto, one of the great Italian writers of the time, and he introduced this new beast in his famous story, De Orlando Furioso. Of course, I'm very well aware that most of you probably know the Hippogriff from another little-known story. You may have heard of it. It's called Harry Potter. And I would be lying if I said that that's not what my mind immediately jumped to when hearing the word Hippogriff. Still, I think it's interesting to know where exactly this mythological beast originated from. And this one I have here almost entirely for its design, and that's because combining a horse, which is one of my favorite animals, with an eagle, which is my favorite bird, and also one of my favorite animals, you can't really go wrong with that. And I feel like most people would agree with that because the Hippogriff looks really, really, really cool. I mean, just picture it for a second. You have this Pokemon that already looks really majestic, but now in the middle of battle it just swoops down, claws at their opponent, and then stampedes them for good measure. What more could you possibly want? Also, I could easily see this being a flying fighting type, which is a really cool typing that's not used a lot, so that also earns it a couple extra bonus points, at least in my opinion. But yeah, the Hippogriff, I think it would be an amazing addition to Pokemon, And I really do hope that they think about adding it, if not in this game, then for the Italian game that I'm hoping is going to come out for Gen 10. Yes, I'm so upset about the fact that the new region is based around the Iberian Peninsula, because when Italy finally does get a region, it's still going to have gotten it after France, Great Britain, and the Iberian Peninsula, which is ridiculous. Like, really? Game Freak, really? We're going to be the 4th region in Europe to get it? Really? Really? The country that had probably the biggest impact on Western culture, the country with the highest density of historical artifacts, the country with the most important empire Europe has ever seen. We are the 4th? Are you kidding me? Whatever. Who cares? It's fine. No, I'm not upset. I'm not upset. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's not fine. And I better not see anyone in the comments telling me, what about the British Empire, or the Spanish Empire, or the French kingdom/empire under Napoleon? The influence they had on Western culture isn't even a 10th of the one that the Roman Empire had. And you study history, you know I'm right. So don't even try to argue with me. It's pointless. You're going to lose. Anyway, quick rant aside, I really am still very excited for these games. So let's just move on to more mythological creatures and get this whole Italy not having a Pokemon region business out of our minds. Coming in at number 3, we have the one and only Griffin. So what's cooler than having an eagle and a horse mixed together, you ask? Why, of course, it's having an eagle and a lion mixed together. What a silly question. But seriously, the Griffin is incredible. Not only is the design always amazing, no matter what depiction I see of it, but also the whole lore behind it that people had in ancient Greco-Roman times when they thought that griffins basically would lay their eggs in burrows and that those nests just had golden nuggets. That's awesome. And it would work so well for a mythical Pokemon that had some kind of secret lair with hidden riches inside it. And these riches could be anything. They could range from actual gold nuggets, which we have in Pokemon, to some kind of insane TM that only the new Griffin Pokemon could learn, to maybe an item that lets you go out and find some other mythical Pokemon that's connected to it. The possibilities truly are endless, and I think it would make for one of the best mythical Pokemon quests that we've had so far. Plus, again, the design is awesome. And while I could see it being another flying fighting type like the Hippogriff, you know what I think would work even better? A flying fire type where the eagle wings are made of fire. I don't know why, but I think because it's partially based on a lion, and lions have been associated in different mythological cultures with the sun or fire in general, I just think it would be incredible if it still had the design of a griffin, but the wings were just like red hot flames. Anyway, I would love to see this thing in Pokemon, and I hope that when they finally do make an Italian region or a Greek region, they add this fantastic, majestic creature to the mix. Moving on to our top 2, and a runner-up is the Chimera. And oh my gosh, this thing is absolutely ridiculous. And I mean that in the best possible way. Head of a lion with a goat head protruding from its back and the tail of a snake is already a combination for one of the most incredible looking things ever. But when you add the fact that it also breathes fire, I mean, seriously, it is by far one of the coolest things that you could add into any Pokemon game. In fact, if not for my personal experience with the number 1 spot on this list, I probably would have this as number 1 because I've always loved the design for this thing. Like, always. Ever since I was a kid and I first started reading Greco-Roman things when I was 7 or 8 years old in Italy. I mean, seriously, having the heads of 3 different animals, all part of the same design, I can only imagine the kind of creativity that Pokemon could come up with for maybe an evolutionary line that would combine different Pokemon to then finally get you this Chimera Pokemon by the end. You know how we have Axelgor and Escavalier who are intrinsically related in terms of their evolution? Imagine that, but it's 3 Pokemon. One based on a lion, one based on a goat, and one based on a snake that you can then have in the same party. And if they maybe all level up at the same time, or they all do something in battle, or whatever conditions they come up with, they kind of merge into one, and you just get a new Pokemon that is this Chimera. Kind of like how you get a Shedinja from the evolution of Nincada into Ninjask, but instead of being an okay Pokemon, it's this ridiculously cool beast that everyone would love to have on their team. I think this Pokemon being either Fire Dark or Fire Poison would work perfectly, and I would seriously love to see it added as soon as possible in any Pokemon game, even if it made no sense lore-wise. But alright, let's move on to our number 1 finisher. And I kinda sorta cheated here because I have 2 different beasts that are both sharing the number 1 spot, but they're also kind of the same one, so I think it's fine. And you'll see what I mean when I go into this, because at number 1, we have the Pegasus and the Nightmare. So, a Pegasus, for anyone who doesn't know, which I'm sure most of you do, but just in case, is a horse with wings who, of course, can fly. A Nightmare, on the other hand, is a Pegasus that has had its wings ripped off and is now this infernal beast with fire coming off of its mane and back and tail. I have 2 different ideas that I think could both work very well for these creatures, but first I want to tell you a little story as to why I love these mythological beasts so much. So I've always loved horses. In fact, I used to do horseback riding when I was younger, and I've also always loved the Percy Jackson series. So when Percy's main mount is a Pegasus, yeah, of course I'm gonna have a soft spot for the creature. But on top of that, I'm also a big fan of D&D. And in one of the campaigns that I'm currently taking part in, I am playing as a paladin of the goddess Nike, who has now received a Pegasus, but in order to get said Pegasus, had to find a Nightmare stranded on Earth and reattach its wings. So, yeah, I also love Nightmares now, and I think that both would be ridiculously cool for any Pokemon based around a horse. And this brings me to my 2 different options. The first, I think, is the most realistic, although also the one that I think is just a little less interesting. And that is just having them be 2 separate creatures. One, a Fire Dark Pokemon, that being the Nightmare, and the other one, a Flying Fairy Pokemon, that being the Pegasus. I think both could work really well just as unique concepts on their own. However, I do have another option that, while I don't think is very likely to happen, would be the absolute best in my opinion. And this option I actually started thinking of after seeing a comment on my short on the Chinese Zodiac starter theory, which you should check out if you haven't already, that said that it would be cool if in Gen 12, let's say, we have the Fire starter being based around a horse. And so this got me thinking, you could have just a Fire starter evolve into the Nightmare at the end, and I think that would be perfectly fine and really, really cool. Or, for the first time, maybe not if they do it before then, but for the first time as far as we know right now, they could have starter evolutionary lines with branch paths. So you could either choose for your starter to become a Nightmare, or you could choose for it to become a Pegasus. And I think if they did that, that line might become my favorite starter line of all time. Alright, so it might be hard to display Cinderace, but this line could give him a run for his money. Unless I scrap the design, in which case I would be very sad. Seriously though, could you imagine if you had a starter with 2 branching evolutionary paths for 2 different but intrinsically related mythological creatures? How is that not the coolest concept ever? Again, I know this probably wouldn't happen because we've never had something like that happen before, and this would also entail almost for sure the other starters also having branching evolutionary paths. But if they could somehow figure it out, I would be 1,000,000% on board. Also, for either option, I think they would have the shiny basically gift wrap to them, where the Pegasus could turn black, and then the Nightmare could turn white with the flames maybe turning blue. And that would be just perfect both lore-wise and design-wise. And also a very nice nod for the Pegasus towards Blackjack, which is the aforementioned mount of the one and only Percy Jackson. But that is it for us here today. Do let me know what creatures you'd like to see added from any mythology, really. And also what you thought of my list, and which ones of my ideas you like the most. Of course, if you want to see more Pokemon content, I recommend subscribing, and I hope to see you all in the next video. But until then, remember to follow the way of the Ace. See ya!